Hello and welcome to Multifamily Elevated. My name's Suzanne Hopson, and I am super excited to talk to you about vision, people, and execution, and how you can utilize this information to elevate you and your team and your experience in multifamily. Brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, giving you the latest and greatest news and content across our multifamily sector. So let's jump in. Enjoy this episode of Multifamily Elevated and enjoy the climb.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Multifamily Elevated. And I don't think I need to introduce our guest for today because everybody knows him. But just in case, Steve Wunch, can you please tell us just a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. I'm so glad to be here. We have been, trying to get this to click for like a few months now, and I'm so glad that it's finally here. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Wunch, like lunch with a W. You can call me the Wunch Man if you want to. This is my 31st year in the multifamily space, about 27 on the owner-operator side, mostly in a training and development position like Director of Training or VP of Learning and Development for different operators. And then about 4 or 5, almost 5 years ago, I hopped over to the supplier partner side, and very honored to be serving as the multifamily industry principal for a company called SalesMail. We replace standard text and email communication with a really cool branded video messaging that is really making some waves in multifamily. So I'm glad to be able to be here with you today.
Yeah, well, thanks for taking the time out, Steve. I know our listeners are going to like this they're going to love this episode because we're going to do a deep dive into you, which I think is just so much fun. And yeah, well, let's get started. I just recently posted something. I can't remember if it was a blog or just a post on LinkedIn about the difference between connecting and networking. And you are really known in our industry as the super connector. I wonder if we should get you a t-shirt that says that, because that could be really cool. But what I'm thinking, all of them, yes, right? That would be pretty cool. In green. I'll make sure it's green. But the reason why I thought of, this article was really based on people like you yourself that are very genuine. You're out there and you are like mastering the art, which I think it's an art of really connecting deeply with people. And so I just wanted to know, if you want to give it up, what your secret sauce is to that, because one, I'd love to know what the difference to you is. Is it really a difference between networking and connecting? And then, your secret sauce, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I mean, I think the difference between networking and connecting is you network with people who you have commonality with. Maybe you're in a similar group, or you serve a similar function, or you're geographically located close to one another. And then I think you connect with people who you see there's a possibility to have a deeper relationship with that person. And like, I jokingly call LinkedIn my CRM, because I'm on LinkedIn all day long, every day of the week. And I've really learned that, for me, it keeps me close to people, and it keeps me, close to the industry. I'm a remote worker. I live by myself. And so I'm in my home office alone all the time. And so for me, it's a real social outlet, and it keeps me connected with the industry, with the people that I know matter in the industry. And I think, I use it on a couple of different levels. I don't know if you want me to go into that or not, but.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Please do.
So if I'm interested in a company, say I want to win a company's business, or I want to win a meeting with someone at a specific organization, I will begin to follow that person. And I don't pitch slap them, which is what I call it when someone makes a connection request and then the first message you get from them is, "Hey, buy my service," because I think that's disrespectful. And I'm a relationship-based guy. How I do my sales, how I build my network, it's all about the relationship for me. And so I really intentionally start to build a relationship with that person or that organization that I'm interested in. And I really pay attention to what messages they're putting out into the universe. And if there's something really cool that they post, I want to give them some kudos. And I begin to kind of build that initial bridge through following their content, making sure I'm part of the conversation if I have something relevant to say, because I usually do, but I don't always. And then once I feel like what I saw that face, then once I feel like it's time, then I'll maybe reach out and say, would you be interested in whatever? But for me, it's really about the relationship. And that to me is the most important piece. And it's, it served me well. And I hopefully have been able to serve other people as well in that regard.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing, and you have, I'm witness to that. I'm a personal example of you being able to connect really, really well with me over the years now. We have some years behind us, which is awesome. But the reason why I thought of you is because we're doing a lot of focus on what makes companies really work. And sales obviously is a huge engine behind the revenue. And even in multifamily, I think our sales folks are getting a lot more credit and attention for what it is that they are able to offer. And yet I feel like the training hasn't changed as much as it probably could to accommodate some of the other ways that we can market ourselves and also connect with other people at the same time. And so I thought about you and I thought, he's taken it one step further, but it totally relates to leasing.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
For sure. 100%. I mean, your opportunity to impact someone's life is so important to remember. And if you're a leasing consultant listening to this podcast, like, you matter to the lives of the people that you're serving. And, to me, a long time ago, I wrote an article for Rent and Retain magazine, which that ought to date me. But it was called... It was called Calling All Leasing Consultants. And I sort of posed the idea of being a leasing consultant being a calling on your life, or something that you really feel drawn to. And I did. I felt really led to this industry because of how I was treated by the folks that I was leasing with in my personal experience. I was like, gosh, I would love to be able to have that kind of impact on people. And I almost feel like it's been a calling for me. And because of that, I'm really intentional with relationships. And, whether it's building a relationship with a prospect, and, I was blessed to work for a few companies who had this kind of as part of their culture. For example, Equity Residential. Mm-hmm. They taught a relationship-based leasing workshop. And I'm telling you what, it made the difference. And they're, on the top 5 NMHC leaders in our industry. And I think it's because they've been intentional with their approach to sales, and they know that it's more about a relationship than it is about a transaction. And how everything we do in our business, whether it's taking a service request or doing a service request or sending a rent reminder out, every moment that we have is an opportunity to reconnect with a current customer or start a relationship with a new customer. And I've just been one who always has had the opportunity to continually put, money in that relationship bank account. And I think it's been part of my success for sure.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love the story. It doesn't date you any more than it dates me. So I'm good with it. Just so you know. So, yeah, I would love to know, and I think you just alluded to it, but I'd love to know, maybe this isn't the example, but what is an example of a time that you really connected with someone else, whether it made an impact on them or made an impact on you, but it really, it sticks in your mind as an example of this? Can you give us a story?
Yeah. So a few years ago, I was working, I was living in Denver, and I had my 80-something mother living with me, and she was going through, dementia, and it was a very difficult time. I was working for a company that decided to part ways with me, and it happens, in a sales organization. Sometimes it happens, and we don't know the real reasons why. But because of my presence on LinkedIn, I was literally getting let go on this laptop, changing my frame. That was when the open to work frame just became popular. I changed my frame to open to work, and I kid you not, minutes after I ended that call with HR and that relationship with that employer, Adam Mexico from Leap sends me a message on LinkedIn. He says, "I've been following you. I've seen you speak. I like the way you operate, and I would love the opportunity to talk to you about some of the things that we have going on here at Leap." And I ended up going to work for them. I became their VP of marketing and events, and it's a great organization. Again, it's an organization that kind of follows along with my core values in that they're making housing more affordable and attainable for everyone, which is very cool. So that to me was a really profound, and my friend Clark Ebert at Apartmentalize, I called him and told him, "Oh, I got let go from my job, but I've got another one I'm going to start in 2 weeks." He's like, "Oh my word, you are the most resilient person I've ever met in my life." And, touch wood that if the situation presents itself again and I'm in that situation needing to find work, that my reputation, I was raised by a dad who told me a good name is better than great riches. And so I just really try to live my life with that in mind. And that's my story.
Wow, I love it. And it is because of your connection with others. I mean, a network is one thing. And I think this is probably one of the distinct differences in how I view it anyway. The connection goes deeper. A network could be people that you haven't really connected with yet. And yet you were picked up very quickly because of your network and your connections within that network. So definitely you're making an impact. And I'll tell you today, and I told you this prior to us coming on, and I'm going to get that number, but I went to go and purposefully look at how many times you have gone on LinkedIn and promoted open work, for others on behalf of others. And it's like every day that you do this, Steve. You're an example of this. And it's just such a giving and loving thing to do for our industry. So first of all, I want to thank you. And secondly, I want to tell you that I'm going to get the number.
I'd be interested to see. I'd be interested. I'd love to know if anybody.
It's amazing.
And I'd love to know if anybody out there has, successfully made a connection with somebody because of that. And I don't do it with everybody because for one, bless their hearts, all the layoffs and all the mishigas that people are going through right now is just overwhelming. But typically, if it's someone I know of, or if it's someone else has recommended, a lot of times I'll see them come through, and somebody who I respect and value a relationship with has said, "Hey, this person's worth taking a look at." I will definitely repost those and share my thoughts. And, if so-and-so's thinking they're a good fit, then they must be a good fit because so-and-so's the best, So, I'm still intentional, even in that regard, about who I'm promoting. Because, it could potentially be my what's the word I'm looking for? Reputation on the line if I recommend somebody. And
brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you 100% on that. You don't do it randomly for sure. I know there's purpose in that. You are truly picking out things about that person and putting them actually in the post. So you can't just do that randomly.
And a lot of them you don't see because a lot of them happen in my inbox in LinkedIn. I'm sending messages constantly, making connections. And you've gotten a few of them. I even started off saying, "Hey, Suzanne and so, you know how much I love connecting people. And here you go. Here's an opportunity to connect." I love to do that. And one of the things that you asked in our pre-call was, tell your secret sauce. And I think for me, the secret sauce is intention. Be intentional with what you're doing. Be intentional with your messaging. Be intentional with how you show up to meetings and with clients and with your team. And, make sure your intention is aligned with, your values and who you are as a person, your core values and who your company says they are. All that stuff should kind of align together. and determine what your intention is and what you're putting out into the universe. I think that really makes a huge difference too.
Totally. It's the difference between, someone that you trust in the sales process and someone you don't. Because when you meet someone that's not core value aligned in what they're pitching, you can tell. I mean, and I don't know if people think they're hiding it, but you can tell when someone doesn't believe in their product. I remember that from leasing training. Like, if you don't believe in your product, you better get it right in your head and in your heart. Go to your manager and say, I can't sell this because the apartment's not ready. You got to speak up and say that, because it will come across your whole presentation. So, I mean, I'm bringing it back to multifamily, of course, because that's where we live. But yeah, it affects that tremendously. And the trust issue is really big too. I know we talked about this before when I was on your podcast, and just really making sure that your core value aligned with your clients, your customers, whoever that might be. And it just makes for a more successful interaction, because they understand what to expect. You understand what to expect. There's a trust that's built. I'm not saying that people don't need like deliverables and things to actually happen, but there is more trust and more give when you are core value aligned and you're speaking the truth. So,
well, and I remember
what you're saying, I totally agree.
I remember when we talked about your role and what you're doing with Here to Elevate, and how you're not going to just take a client to have a client. You have to make sure that their values align with you and your brand and who you are. That's very intentional. And as I get older, I find that if I'm going to spend my energy somewhere, it has to be in that sweet spot, because otherwise I'm wasting my energy, and I don't. My tank isn't as full as it used to be, but through interactions and the relationships that I build, thank goodness, it gets filled up on a regular basis. But I think it's important to think about, if you don't believe in what you're selling, if you can't align with the company that you're representing, find a new place, because life is too short and you're too important and valuable, and what you have to say matters. Find a place where your voice can be heard and where you can be seen and valued, and where everything kind of lines up,
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And, I think, I told you before that I do sort of categorically episodes based on certain things. And this one was going to be sales oriented, but I really hear in this a lot of leadership. And I appreciate that too, because we do focus a lot on leadership on this podcast. And so that is a great piece of advice, which I'm going to ask you at the end, like what to tell the people that are up and coming. So keep that in your hat. Yeah. You already talked a lot about your intentional strategies on LinkedIn, and that's a whole nother art form that I wasn't aware of until I started to really generate business for Here to Elevate. And there's a lot to it. And there are some things that you could potentially waste your time on if you got roped in or you didn't know what you were doing. Is there one piece of advice that you would give people to not do on LinkedIn?
100%. It would be, don't post just to post. It doesn't matter if you post every day or 3 days a week. Don't adhere to a guideline like that. Like, I have a thing called Wunch Bite Wednesdays. And so on Wednesdays, a lot of the time, I've been trying to do a lot more video content, because people remember 95% of what they hear or see in a video versus 10% of what they read. So that's a huge takeaway. Video is powerful. That's why I'm at Sales Mail, because it makes a powerful connection with people. And secondly, I do some text as well. So I alternate my process between videos and just straight text posts, but I don't post just to post. And it was funny because one Wednesday I missed it. I didn't have anything to share. So I shared, gosh, I missed my deadline. I had a Wunch Bite Wednesday and I blew it. And everybody was like, no, you didn't. Don't post when you don't have anything valuable to share. And I think that's really where people can get off track. It's just this feeling like I have to constantly be putting myself out there. That's not true. People will find more value in you as a resource when you post things that matter. And so there can be weeks that go by and Wunch Bite Wednesday doesn't happen, and that's okay. But when it does happen, I hope that the stuff that I'm putting out there is worthwhile and has value to people.
Mm. Yes. Well, you don't have to worry about that, Steve. Your hope is a reality. So just so you know, just so you know, you bet. So what did you start at the Multifamily Mind? I want to know about that because you have your own famous podcast. What made you decide to do that?
So it's a funny story, and I love telling it. I had been interested in sales mail for a couple of years. I met Hillary Beck and Mark Tuminello, a couple of my colleagues here, at the at the Multifamily Social Media Summit in Napa a few years ago, and just I started building a relationship with them. To be honest with you, the product intrigued me. They were really, really nice people, and I always want to bring more nice people into my circle if I can. And we had the opportunity at several different events throughout the year to touch base and go to dinner and talk. And I kept in the back of my mind thinking, when are they gonna ask me to say yes to the dress and come and join this company? And it didn't happen. I thought one night we went to dinner in Napa at Social Media Summit, and I thought for sure it's going to happen tonight. I could tell, and it didn't happen. And I was like, oh, what happened? But then everything happens for a reason. I found myself, I went to work at an operator here in Richmond, Virginia. I was there for about 10 months, set up their learning and development kind of structure and foundation, and it just didn't feel like the right fit. So I took a few months off. And when I came back around to find a role, it was time. And I spoke with Hillary, and she's like, I really think we need to pitch this idea of an industry principal because we're not really well known in the multifamily space, and we've got a huge footprint in senior living. We'd really love to be able to help folks win more business in multifamily. And so I wrote a job description, kind of like if I could have a job handed to me on a silver platter, what would I want to do? And I wrote this job description, and I pitched it to Walt and Fran, our owners, and they said yes. And I was thrilled. Mm-hmm. We had our annual kickoff that January, and the next day a bunch of us went to the office and we met in the conference room, and there's a whiteboard wall in the conference room. And on the whiteboard wall, it said, Multifamily Podcast with Steve Wunch. And my owner, Fran, tapped me on the shoulder and she said, that's been on the wall here for about a year now. And I get goosebumps whenever I tell, no, I get goosebumps whenever I tell that story, but You
too. I've got them right now.
I know, me too. So it was just like this profound moment where two things came together at the right time for the right reason. And, I couldn't be more happy. First season was great. We had a lot of wonderful thought leadership people like yourself on, Mike Brewer, a lot of the folks, that you're associated with in the Multifamily Media Network. Lacey Daniels was on. And this season is much more about what can we give the site teams and the corporate support folks, some actionable things that they can take back and change their process or tweak how they do things to get better results. But it's been a joy and a pleasure. I've really gotten to meet some wonderful people in our business. And that's how it started.
Well, and you're excellent, an excellent interviewer, I must say. I've seen you in action, so.
It's not easy. I mean, a lot of people would think it's easy, but it's not. And we don't like it scripted. But to your point, as we got on this call, there are a few questions. And this season, we actually do a 30-minute pre-call. And so we talk with our guest about what their topic is, and we really kind of say, we really want to bring it to the boots on the ground. So let's make sure that that's part of our messaging, and it's really been successful. We've got I'm booked up through September already, so we're filmed every other week through September. We're done, not produced fully, but
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great.
Wow, I'm going to be tuning in. They're always good, and now that I know you're changing the topic a little bit, you're getting more into the weeds, definitely gonna tune. I think it's important. I'm glad that you're you're spearheading that, because I've gotten that feedback too, that, people want to know how to help the people that are on the front line. And some of this is for the front line for sure, but other stuff is not so much. And so I think this will be really good, another outlet, for them to be able to get another resource for, the things that can really help them.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Nick, you could use it as a team meeting if you wanted to, depending on the topic. And we share, yeah. A lot of managers don't, how do I have, I don't have time to put an agenda together for a weekly huddle. Well, you've got a lot of podcasts in our space that there are some great tips and techniques and leadership things and great stuff to share with your team. Use a podcast as your topic of choice for a meeting every once in a while.
Great tip number 12 on this episode. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. No, this is really good. I know we're coming up on time, so I want to get a couple more in here that I think will be really, really great.
Well, you wanted to talk about sales, so let's have some questions that are sort of sales oriented.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, can I ask one other one first? Can I have permission? I'll go back to sales, but I want to hear about your session, Bringing Humanity to Your Insanity. Can you talk a little bit about what that's about?
Sure, yeah. It is a keynote, so it's anywhere from 45 minutes. I can spread it out to longer if needed, but it's just about looking at our process and remembering that there's a human being on the other end of that process, and what can we do to humanize what we're doing? Because sometimes it feels so transactional and so ingenuine. I get a rent reminder every month. How could I change that up if I'm an operator to make it more valuable, to make the experience more meaningful? And so it's nothing rocket science, but I get such great reviews and requests for that session just because it's like we forget about that. We get so in the weeds and we've got our blinders on and we've got deadlines to meet and owners to satisfy and all the things. And everything we do impacts the people that live at our communities. And what can we do to make sure that we acknowledge that human element that's part of how we are able to do business to begin with? We connected with somebody, they liked us, and they said yes to the address, and they moved into our property. What can I do to keep them,
Yes to the address. Oh my gosh. Well, I guess that was a sales tip, truly. So if anyone wants to get a hold of it, maybe schedule this keynote, they'll be able to do that now that we've told the world what it's about, which I think is really cool. And, it's about that relationship selling. And it's interesting. I had one of our mutual friends, Pam Peterson, do a training for one of my clients. Yeah, I know, she's wonderful, enthusiastically consulting and also with Here to Elevate. She's just all over the place. And she and I were talking about what to do with the team and how to really approach it. And she's like, well, I don't really have anything that's other than relationship selling. So I'm not quite sure what else there is. And I was like, whoa, this is good. Okay. Same thing. And, I don't know, maybe it's because I love sales so much that I think about it more than I think about some of the other aspects or some of the other positions. But it was brilliant and it was needed and it was different. And I think, sometimes, like I said at the beginning, we get rather mechanical or transactional, like you said, because we're not stopping, we're not intentional. We're just sort of floating and we're going with the motions. And it was really a great reminder that every step of the way, there's an opportunity to really impact, be intentional all along the customer journey. So I thank you for that. I think that's really great. And I could see online as I look over to my other screen that you have been doing this like everywhere. You've been doing it for, property management companies. And it's just been really amazing. So that's why I was really curious to see what else.
Just did it for the Washington Multifamily Housing Association's EdCon, and the room was full and the teams were engaged, and it was hilarious because I had some technology that failed me, and it was fun, but it shows people you can be yourself. You can, it doesn't have to be perfect. People aren't looking for people. People aren't looking for perfect. They're looking for authenticity and for people who are real. That's the secret of the power of connection versus network is authenticity. That's the juice that makes that jive.
Makes it jive. And we went full circle with that because that's exactly what this was about. You know, really the difference between those two things. And yes, they're both necessary, but yeah, that's the real deal. Oh my gosh, such good nuggets today. Well, I have my infamous question that I always ask, which is, you know, we have a lot of people. Yeah, well, I mean, it's everybody. I don't know. I've heard a lot, but I love asking it. So I'm going to take it like it's my own. And that is just really being able to give a piece of advice to anyone that's up and coming in a sales role. What one thing would you tell them based on all of your experience now and learning the hard way and maybe the easy way too? What piece of advice would you give them if it could be one thing?
One thing. Oh, just one?
Well, hard one, actually.
I would say you're worth way more than you're getting paid. And you need to remember that, because those folks leasing they are the only ones making revenue for the property. Everybody else in the company is spending money, and they are the bread and butter. And so regardless of what your pay grade is, you need to think of yourself as an elevated NOI contributor, and your role matters more than anybody else. You and the service team, both sides of the coin, leasing and service, are the reasons we have customers and how we keep customers. And don't forget that. And this job can be a career. It can be a lifelong career. You can do anything you can do for any Fortune 500 company, you can do for a multifamily company. So whatever you want to do, put it on your vision board and manifest it. And it can happen in multifamily. So you chose the right business, and just put your heart into it and you will succeed.
Beautiful. And I love that you're worth more than you're getting paid. That's something everyone should think about, because our worth isn't always just defined by that too. I read it a couple of different ways, and that was really, really cool. Well, this was like the best time, and I want to have this time again.
I hope. I'd love that. Yeah.
Awesome. How do people get hold of you, Steve? I know you said LinkedIn. Is that really the best way?
LinkedIn is great.
How can they find you?
LinkedIn is great. My email, you can put it in the show notes if you want to. It's just, well, it's a long one. It's steve.wunch@heartlegacy.com. Heart Legacy is my parent company. Starts with the heart. That's a key there. Steve.wunch@heartlegacy.com. LinkedIn, I'm on it all the time. Please connect with me. I'd love to add you to my network. If I can ever be of service or a resource or a sounding board, please don't hesitate to ask. And there you have it.
Amazing, Steve. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out today. We love you. We're going to continue to watch you succeed and just trailblaze.
The Mutual Admiration Society has now come to order. No, but I'm serious. How we have a relationship, it's all because of, I met you on LinkedIn, and we had this virtual thing going, and finally got to meet in person. You know, I mean, it was cool. So it can happen to you too. It's the
best. Yes. And when that happens, I hear about that all the time. Like, it is the best. You've known someone for 3 years on LinkedIn, and then all of a sudden you get to see them in person, and it's like, they're like old friends.
Yeah.
I'll get in. And it's just great. I love it. All right. Well, thanks again, Steve. And we look forward to hearing more in the future.
You got it.
Thanks for tuning in to Multifamily Elevated, where we hope that you are inspired and ready to go, elevated to take on your next challenge in multifamily. So if you liked this episode, please subscribe, like, comment, and of course, share with your network. And don't forget that this was brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, that is also sharing the latest and greatest in trends, ideas, and content across our multifamily space. Until next time, keep elevating, and we'll talk soon.